Okay, just a reminder, we're going to go over some strategies to best help you on your ELA EOG. So, the first thing is whenever you read fiction texts, obviously you're going to have a pencil in your hand, okay? And so your whole test book should be marked up, but your markings are going to have purpose. So, as you're reading fiction, you're going to circle any incidents or experiences or examples of dialogue. You're going to circle all of those. As you circle them, remember you're going to read the context of what it says. Is what the character is stating, is it positively or negatively impacting the text, other characters, the plot, etc. So once you circle that and you determine that, you're going to put a plus or minus. Plus would be it's positively impacting or propelling the action, or it is negatively doing so. So you don't have to write a word or anything connected to that. You're just going to put pluses and minuses. So today's particular text that standard that we're going to discuss is RL3. So if you look at your screen, it's highlighted in green. Analyze, and we know that analyze means to examine in detail, to find more information to be able to explain. Okay, so we're going to analyze particular lines of dialogue or incidents in a story, plot details, or a drama, if it's a play or whatnot, to propel the action. Again, does the dialogue, was it positive? Is it positively propelling the action? Meaning, is it making the action, the story go further along in a positive light? Is it negatively impacting? It'll also look at RO3 will ask you to analyze how certain lines of dialogue reveal things about a character. And then lastly, it'll ask you to look at the dialogue or plot details to see how a character, how it impacts them to provoke a decision, okay? Again, on your EOG, you're not going to have this, but you will have a question stem that looks similar to one of these five. So in the first one, how does the setting affect the selection? So there we didn't, I told you at the beginning, you're not going to, I told you to circle dialogue. Dialogue isn't setting. So go back to the beginning of the text in your plot diagram. That plot diagram is going to give you so much information if you just take the time to draw it out. So your plot diagram, that beginning section, that exposition, that first line is going to tell you some important details. A lot of times in the first half of the selection, even typically in the first paragraph or two, the author is going to lay out the setting for you. Document that somehow. Go into your text and say, put an S over it for setting. That way, when you come to the end and you see a question like number one that says, how does the setting affect the selection? You've already documented that. You don't have to look all over the story again and all the words start blurring together. You can just go back to where you mark that S and look and see what that setting is doing, okay? So you're going to, that question is asking you to analyze how the setting impacts the action, how it propels the action. Easy enough. Not easy enough, but easy enough to analyze that, right? To understand what that question is asking you. The second one says, in the sentence below, why did the blank feel blank? So if you go back up to here to where our what our analysis could be about, we're going to look at it's going to give you a sentence below. The sentence below could be about the setting. The sentence below could be about dialogue, or the sentence below could be about a plot detail. But in that, you're going to see what's being revealed about a character. One thing that we know is this one is telling us that the character is feeling something. So that something is this other blank, right? It might say in the sentence below, why did the man feel frightened? So we're going to go back to just that sentence that they give us, and we're going to look for how, whether it's dialogue or a plot detail, so whether it's dialogue or incidents in a story, how that reveals to us that he's frightened. The answer is going to already be in here. Now we just have to kind of summarize how we were able to analyze that particular sentence to find an answer choice. Number 3 says, what do the sentences below reveal about the character? So they're going to give you a sample, a selection, a few lines, and in that it could be dialogue, it could be incidents in the story. Most times I would argue it's probably going to be dialogue, because you learn about someone, about a character, by what they say, and so, or what someone says about them. So in this one, we know that we're going to have to look at those particular sentences that they give us and be able to summarize what those are saying. I don't know why I keep messing with this pencil. Summarize what it's saying, and then decide what's being revealed to the reader because of these lines. Because of these lines. 4, how are the characters in this selection affected by the setting? Again, go back to the setting. If it's in a desert, they're going to be impacted a certain way, probably negatively, right? If it's wintertime, it's going to affect them a certain way. If it's springtime, it's affecting them in a certain way. If they're in a spaceship, that's going to impact them a certain way. If it's on a horse-drawn carriage, that's impacting them a certain way. If they're in outer space with like I said, with a spaceship, that's going to do something to them. So what you need to do is really look at that character, make a list of the characters that they give you in the answer choices, and say, okay, if my setting is outer space, in a rocket ship, and then I'm looking at my answer choices, I need to see what character they responded with and go back to my text and say, okay, how does them being in outer space, how is it impacting them? And then you find that answer choice, and that's going to be the one that's the best choice, okay, with the best selection answer choice. 5, how does the conversation in paragraphs 2 and 3 impact the story's plot? A lot of times, hint, 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 a lot of times dialogue reveals some conflict. So if it's pointing you to a conversation between two particular selections in there, whether paragraph 2, 3, paragraph 5 and 6, whatever they say, look at those words. Look at how a character's dialogue with another character, how that's revealing something about them. This one says, how does it impact the plot? Are they foreshadowing something for the reader? Is it diving deeper into what the conflict is? Is it creating suspense? There's so many things that dialogue can do, but many times, as a hint, it's going to reveal some conflict between characters. So those are the question stems that could come with this particular standard. This is what I want you to remember. This is how you show your work in ELA. We go back to these graphic organizers we've been working on. So anytime you see one of these question stems, I want you to remember, think back to these last 5 weeks that we've been very intentional about setting up a graphic organizer and showing our ways of thinking, okay? So a graphic organizer, again, is just a way to visualize your thinking. And so if you see one of these questions, you start making little boxes, okay? If it says for number 1, how does the setting affect the selection? I need to know here, setting is going to impact characters. So let me put a character that they've given me and then make an analysis of how the setting is developing the character. How's it developing the character, okay? If it says in the sentence below, why did the blank feel blank? Which one of these am I going to think about? Well, one, I know it's already given me the character information there. Feel in the sentence below is going to either reveal something about setting, it's going to reveal something about the plot, or it's going to show me that the character decided to make a decision. Character's perspective, it's giving us something. He's feeling something, so more than likely it's a perspective that he's going to have. So what decision does he make based in those lines? What do the sentences below reveal about the character? Make sure that you go back and look at that and say, okay, I know that this is the words that were given to me, or the example, or the plot, or the setting. How is that impacting the character?